สวัสดีครับขอต้อนรับเข้าสู่รายการห่วงใยอินไซต์นะครับสำหรับวันนี้เนี่ยเรามีหัวข้อซึ่งมีความสำคัญพอสมควรนะครับเพราะว่าเราอยู่กับโควิดมาหลายเดือนละนะครับแล้วก็ดูว่าจะไม่จากเราไปไหนได้ง่ายๆนะครับตอนนี้ก็มีข่าวที่เราค่อนข้างคอนเซิร์นกันว่าจะกลับมาที่กรุงเทพอีกหรือเปล่านะครับสิ่งที่มีผลกระทบอันนึงก็คือว่าผลกระทบเกี่ยวกับมนุษย์ออฟฟิศนะครับคนที่ใช้เวลาส่วนใหญ่ในออฟฟิศนะครับตอนนี้ก็มีการเริ่มพูดคุยมากขึ้นนะครับว่าผลกระทบของเจ้าโควิดนี่คืออะไรนะครับวันนี้เนี่ยเราเองได้มีโอกาสได้มาคุยกับผู้เชี่ยวชาญนะครับเป็นบริษัทดีไซน์เฟิร์มชั้นนำนะครับแล้วก็บุคคลที่เราจะคุยเนี่ยก็เป็นคนซึ่งมีความรู้ความสามารถนะครับมีประสบการณ์ในการออกแบบออฟฟิศมาแล้วทั่วโลกนะครับวันนี้เป็นโอกาสอันดีนะครับที่เรามีโอกาสได้คุยกับคุณสกอตนะครับWhittaker Group Creative Directors DWP Group.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good morning.
Scott. Hi. Okay. Thank you so much for giving us a chance to talk about what is the future of workplace might be.
Okay.
Before and after COVID.
Okay.
All right. So before we start, if you can give us a little bit background about your company, DWP Groups, maybe in the worldwide setting and in Bangkok setting.
Great.
Also.
DWP is a Thai company. We started here 25 years ago.
Wow.
And we've grown over that period to a business that has about 350 staff and 11 offices. So we're a BOI company. So we're an export success in Thailand. So and we work across both workplace and lifestyle.
I see.
sectors.
So your company started in Bangkok?
We started in Bangkok.
Oh,
yeah.
that's amazing. When
Yeah.
I go through, your profile, I thought that you are Australian company.
No.
You're not.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah.
Australian, but we started the business here, and
All right.
Thailand gave us the opportunity to grow.
I see. So that's great. So then we can learn a lot more about Thai people behavior, and people offices in Bangkok as well. What does it all mean in terms of COVID, right?
Yeah, sure.
But let me break it down into something very simple. So we're going to talk about what is the new normal in terms of the design for the workplace, for example, and also we're going to talk about what is future of workplace that you see is going to come that COVID is representing this opportunity to us. And perhaps the last topic that we wish to touch upon is specifically to Thai worker behavior. Do you see anything similarity or differences from other locations?
Sure.
So first thing first, so what is the new normal in terms of office design, Scott?
I think that we've all now been living through COVID for nearly 9 months.
Right.
And we've all been through a lockdown period, and we've come out of that. Thailand's been very fortunate because the government very early was able to suppress the COVID, and most of the incoming COVID cases are coming from travel and abroad. So we're very lucky, but also Thai business community's been very good at being part of and very active in wearing masks, measuring people. So Thais have been very good at getting used to this, and I think it's part of the country that it's very adaptive and very quick to adopt change.
Right.
So I think that's helped. So when we go to the office environment, obviously, firstly the offices closed down, then people have returned to work. But I think it hasn't gone back to where it was. People have changed the way they are working. Many businesses are working on a hybrid model.
I see.
So people work from home some days, they work in the office some days.
Right.
So I think people have been very keen not to go back to the old way of working. And that will impact office design.
Oh, I see.
The big thing I believe that it has done is accelerated the trends that were happening before COVID.
All right.
So that was to a flexible, dynamic workplace rather than a fixed workplace. So what probably would have taken 10 to 15 years was compressed into 9
Okay.
months.
Thanks to COVID, huh?
Thanks to COVID. So, I mean, of course, we don't want COVID, but
Yes.
I think it's accelerated, and also you see the acceleration of digital change, which goes hand in hand with flexible office. So, the government's 4.0 initiatives
I see.
have been accelerated, and you see the use of paperless digital technologies, and really to create a flexible office, you have to bring in changes with technology.
I see.
As well as behavioral changes and organizational change. So
Right.
they have kind of all compressed to happen at one
I
time.
see. So it's not just about hardware, isn't it? You're talking about software, which is the people, behavior, and
Yeah.
also hardware side is the readiness of the technologies and perhaps the policy and mindset of corporation to open up a little bit more. Let's go of the control, something
Correct.
like that. I see.
And I think what we're seeing now, 8-9 months into the pandemic, is people have moved to a very much hybrid mode. So people are not just working from home. It's a mix of working from home. People have got very comfortable with tools such as Zoom and Google Meet and Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
So whereas in the past people couldn't use those tools, they're now rapidly using those tools. So a lot of meetings and travel that might have happened before has gone.
Yep.
So then people are able to probably better balance their lives.
I still remember early this year I struggling how to operate Zoom and accept people into my call as well, but it seemed like we way past that mode already, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think everybody's got used to those tools. They now know that you can do a Zoom meeting on a mobile device, on an
that's true.
iPad.
Yep.
They can do it on a computer. Everybody's comfortable with it.
Right.
They know how to turn off their backgrounds,
Virtual
mute
background,
and,
I see.
and
Yeah.
use it. And with that advanced adoption,
I see.
people are then able to change their workplaces.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
the other aspect, I think, is the changes in usage of the office due to health reasons. So
I see.
people have become very comfortable with having their temperature taken, getting the little coloured dot,
Yeah, I see.
making sure offices are very clean. You can see here every table that we have in the office has cleaning fluid on it,
wow. Yeah, I see.
hand cleaner,
Right.
and I think most offices are adopting that. So
I see.
along with that cleanliness comes things like paper-free offices,
I see.
clean desk policies, and reducing the amount of storage people have at their desks.
Right.
A lot of our clients are adopting lockers for their staff. So in our office we have a digital locker for everybody, and rather than storing their items at their desk, they store them in a locker,
right. I
which
see.
enables the office to be cleaned.
I see. Okay. And also like mobile, right? It's not a fixed station, working station
No.
anymore. You can come in and check in wherever station you like.
Correct. And I think to enable full mobility, you really have to change the IT tools that you have. So things like bringing wireless into the office,
Right.
Changing from fixed computers to mobile devices, enables people to be flexible. If they're fixed with a computer at their desk, they really can't move.
I see.
But we're now all getting very familiar with devices like this, that you can work anywhere and move
Right.
around
I
the
see.
space. One thing that people do need more though is privacy. So while we might have flexible open offices, there's a lot more need for enclosed spaces that are soundproof,
I
so
see.
people can conduct meetings,
Phone
gather
call,
together,
yeah.
phone calls.
Right. I see.
So while there's a trend for much more open, flexible office, there's also the reverse trend where you need more enclosed, small spaces for meetings.
Yeah, I see. Oh, that's quite amazing. So a couple of things that I get the information from other places as well. They seem to be like the trend of maybe smaller working space. I'm sorry, smaller office space, right? Because in the past, maybe 100% of the people show up at work, but right now, we can talk about 20 to 50, it's depend on organization as well. So the need for space is, the trend is a little bit like, smaller and smaller office space is required or not?
Correct. We're working on quite a number of new office spaces from small to large organizations. And I'd say the trend is for about 20 to 30% of less office space. Because probably 20 to 30% of the people are not there. Either they're mobile workers or they're working a flexible office regime. So that really relates to probably a 20 to 30% reduction in office space. Additionally, people are much more keen to collaborate. So there's going to be a lot more businesses where they share office space and share facilities. So again, that can reduce the office space. There's a conflicting trend that with COVID, people would like to sit further apart. And I think initially we saw people putting up plastic divisions and things like that. But long term, I don't think that's practical. So probably we might see a little bit more space at the desk, a little bit compression of tables, but overall people will need less office space.
With the smaller space, what will be your recommendation for any organization to focus on? Will it be like, a place to inspire people, a place to showcase certain things for organizations? What do you see?
I think the real trend for all organizations is to create a place where creativity can happen. Because businesses are moving from just process driven to places where people think and create ideas. So if you can encourage creativity in that layout, which is creating spaces where people can work together rather than be separated. People want closed spaces to escape to think personally, but actually we want people to collaborate together. So it's creating scenes within the office where people can work together and talk and exchange ideas.
Right. So how about the corporate identities? How about the cultures that organization want to embed for the organization?
I mean, it's an acceleration of the trend, but there's much less formality in the office. I think because everybody's been working from home, the idea of wearing suit and tie is pretty well gone. People are a lot more flexible in the way that they go to meetings. I remember 10 years ago, most meetings in Thailand were very formal. People were very well dressed. And that's changed to be a much more comfortable working environment. And I think that permeates through everything people do. So probably less hierarchy within an organization, flatter organizations, and more of exchange of ideas. And there's a totally new generation of staff who were brought up on mobile device. So I think they're used to instant communication, Facebook, Line, Instagram. So it's a generational change as well.
You see a big difference between generations in terms of acceptance of the new way of work. Like for example, the junior staff is more open up for that, but a little bit more seniors is resist to that.
Exactly. I think people are used to having their closed offices and hierarchy. Although what we've found is that when an organisation moves to a new office, some of the senior or older staff may be reluctant for the change, but usually within a month to 6 weeks, people become used to it and like it. So yes, there's resistance to the change, but again, this country is very flexible, and people are willing to compromise. So I think you see that people will change the way they work and are quite happy about it.
I see. I think it's also depend on the culture of organization as well, right? Some organizations might open up for change quite easily than other organizations as well.
What we've found the most successful transitions or transformation is when the leadership lives what they talk about. So when you see the management be part of that change, where they work in the flexible spaces, it's a more open working environment. then everybody's accepting of that
Right,
change.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If
I
the-
think that's sorry. That's a good keyword, right? You other models what
Yeah.
you trying to navigate the change.
Now, we did a very exciting project with K-Bank,
okay.
and the management really adopted that new platform.
Right.
And they also informed the staff during the transition, kept them well informed, took their teams to see the new office so everybody could imagine
I
it.
see.
And then once they moved to their new office, they lived that new way of working.
I see. All right. Let's talk about. You mentioned a couple of times about the Thai behavior.
Yes.
A little bit more specific, right? Can you compare with other locations that DWP have working with? What's so specific about a Thai workforce here that maybe accelerating certain thing or maybe pull back certain thing as well?
I mean, one thing about Bangkok is we live in a city with bad traffic.
All right.
So work becomes people's lives,
I
and getting to work and returning to work. So offices are maybe much more social than another country, and people like to have activities after work, during lunchtime, and a lot of their social group is often the colleagues from work. So I think that's quite different.
Right.
And then the workplace takes on more importance because it also becomes a social place.
I see.
And we find that people socialise a lot, whereas maybe in Australia or the UAE, at 5:30 they'd leave and go home.
Yeah.
Here we often see people staying late, playing
Right.
table tennis,
I see.
mixing together. So I think it's a much more social.
Right.
Probably the other side of Thai culture is people are less likely to speak up.
I see.
So, and maybe they won't speak up to management. So, there has to be a lot more thought about encouraging communication so people feel like they can
Get trust, yeah.
input into that process.
I see. Okay. Oh, that's really valuable input. Thank you so much. In terms of the new features for the office, let's talk about technologies. Let's talk about security guard as a person who monitor the temperature and things like that. Do you see any big change or any?
I mean, just arrival of the office. I think that's clearly going to be automated with facial recognition, automatic temperature sensors.
I see.
So there's probably going to be less requirement for a guard. Everybody's put that in at the moment, but I think that will disappear. Entrances to the office probably become touch-free.
Right.
So you would enter the office through facial recognition, and you can see that already being adopted by a lot of buildings.
Right.
Once you're inside the office, I think one of the clear changes is that you need to be wireless. Once you're wireless and free of land cabling, you can move around the office. So I think the requirement to be wireless, that then enables all the other transformations that can occur in the office.
Right.
And much more thought about cleanliness of surfaces and touch-free devices.
Right.
Typically office bathrooms are becoming more touch-free.
I see.
Soap dispensers, and the last thing we need to do is have touch-free doors because it's always the handle of the bathroom door that is the thing that everybody touches. Yeah.
I see.
I think the other thing we learn about COVID is it's more about airborne. It's a more airborne disease than a touch-based disease. So I think people are going to be rethinking their air conditioning systems, making sure that they're clean and that there's more access to fresh air.
I see. But that can be a really difficult thing to do, isn't it? Like aircon system is something
It's very difficult to retrofit, but I think the new buildings that are coming on stream, and there's some big new developments, like One Bangkok, and so they're all taking into consideration that in their
Right. Sometimes we often hear people who work from home as well. They say that they feel really stressed. Technology is on one hand is a good thing, right? On the other hand, meaning that you've been monitored or been requested to join Zoom call one meeting after the others. Have you heard about that, or what is the role of office design that can ease out that pressure
I mean,
for them as well?
they're very stressful because you have to concentrate. You don't have that deep interpersonal
Right.
connection that you're in the same room,
Uh-huh.
and there's problems with audio. So I think you have to create time for people to have a break. That they can get away from the Zoom call.
Right.
So the hub of the office becomes more important, and you'll see most offices are converting what used to be a pantry
Uh-huh.
really to a cafe,
Right.
a place where people can relax, have a coffee, but they're also now able to work. So I think that relaxation, larger organisations are also putting in yoga room,
I see.
fitness areas,
Right.
or club memberships, so that people can take some stress out with group activity.
I see. Okay. So what you say is a co-working revolution. I think it's the word the term that you use in the
Yes.
paper as well. And by the way, we're gonna provide some link for audience to download that paper. Can you clarify the words co-working revolutions that you use in your document?
And I think co-working basically means that multiple people use a space.
Right.
So that space might during the day be used by multiple people.
I see.
Previously, people worked in a fixed office that was theirs or had a fixed desk. So really, it's intermingling of people. It's also the connection
Right.
of different organisations or within a large organisation, making sure that there's not silos of information. So across the organisation, people are working together, breaking down barriers,
Right.
and providing scenes within the office where people can collaborate. There also is a trend for co-working lease spaces.
I see.
Where people lease a space by the day, the hour, the month, to share facilities
I see.
and share staff areas. They might have private office, but they share some facilities.
Right. I see. Okay. So you also mentioned about the material. How about the material? You also work with one of the leading hospital in Thailand,
Yes.
as I know. Anything that you learn from that environment that can be applied to the office?
And I think there's a real trend towards sustainability in one hand and cleanliness.
I see.
So sustainability is using non-toxic materials that are maybe recycled,
Right.
natural, paints that are not toxic. Also sourcing materials locally from the local market rather than importing them. So I think
Right.
there's a sustainability factor. The other one is ability to clean it easily. So
I see.
we've seen a trend away from fully carpeted offices to areas where you have a hard surface and some carpet. And so the reduction of anything that can collect dust
Right.
and materials that are easy to clean.
I see. All right. Wow, that's quite interesting. So we are in we cannot say, right, like the end of COVID or the middle or something like that. But what we are talking about, do you think it's going to sustain or is open for unknown?
I mean, we really don't know. None of us can see the future, but I guess everybody's hoping that by the middle or later next year, everybody has a vaccine.
Right.
But I don't think anyone is ever going to return to the past. We had a big discussion yesterday, and it was talking about the legal implications
I see.
of COVID, and that every organisation, it's their responsibility to have procedures in place, and we think over the longer term, governments will bring in rules so this doesn't happen again. So that will impact each organisation, that they will have to have procedures in place and systems and workplaces that follow certain rules. It hasn't come yet, but probably insurance and government will force it.
I see.
And large global organisations will have standards that they bring across all their businesses. So I think it will impact us forever.
Right.
Yeah. Even if hopefully the disease is minimised or goes away in the next year.
I see. So what does this all mean for the new generations, kids who are like watching what going what going on right now, and maybe their mental in terms of okay, one day I'm gonna be in the office, and what is the office anyway? What do you think about that?
I mean, the new generation of kids has been brought up with mobile phones,
Right.
so they're going to have a very different view of the world. Some of it is great because they're able to view everything. They will have a lot more opinion.
Right.
They'll feel a lot freer in what they could say. But I think what gets lost in that is the traditional interaction between people. And there's a barrier when children can't go to school or they're stuck at home. They're not able to grow socially. So I think there's some issues that might come out long term.
I see.
So there's some plus and minus.
Right. And even that also mean that it's put a lot of emphasis on like the space that we have, the time that we have together
Exactly.
as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I think one trend that's been driven by work from home or flexible office times is people suddenly realised their houses weren't that nice. And there's been a big focus on refurbishing of people's workplace at home. So people are very much focused on having a great place to work, somewhere they can study, somewhere where the whole family can work in their home and not disrupt each other. So I think there's a big trend. If you go to all the home remodeling places, they're all busy.
I know. I tried to order some IKEA desks during the early of COVID. I cannot, because it's sold out. I can't imagine.
And I think because people haven't been able to travel, everybody's become more focused on Thailand and the environment they have now. So I think people are more concerned about their local office environment, their transit to work and their travel.
Yeah, it seems like people more aware of the environment.
Yes.
The hygiene of the environment, the safetyness, right? And maybe the technology's availability in that environment as well.
Yeah.
So then, the last question for me is our platform name is Care for Thai Business. We always end our interview with our guests with anything that you want to pass on your caring words to the business community outside or to anybody's.
I think one thing that everybody needs to think about is we're all living in this one city or one country, and we've got to collaborate better together. And if we work together, we don't have to see our competitors as the enemy.
I see.
We should be able to work together. Common benefit and look at how you can put two competing organizations together to create more success.
Right.
And I think that's a strength that we could really look to in Thailand.
I see. And I think that COVID gave us that ability, isn't it, to rethink, how we function as a society as well. What you say, I really like it a lot. That we find strength by supporting each other.
Correct.
Not competing among each other.
Yeah. And want more cohesive society where people and businesses can benefit by working together.
I see. All right. So with that, we got the words of wisdom from Scott Whittaker, Group Creative Director from the DWP Group, based in Bangkok. So proud of your organizations that grow from Bangkok into what are large and remarkable organizations. So thank you so much,
Thanks so much.
Scott,
Yeah, okay.
for giving
Okay.
us a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you ครับสวัสดีครับ